Okay, we are going to get started. There is obviously a very good chance that further people are gonna pop onto Zoom and or come in. Plus, just let you know, I'm already recording this. Class is being recorded. My plan is to do a quick intro. And then we have 3 presenters today who have agreed to present. Dustin is presenting, and I'm gonna have probably Dustin go first. Kathy is presenting. And then Talia did not know she was having surgery when she offered to present, so has supplied me with a video presentation, which I will do last, because we're not keeping Talia waiting. She's not actually there. I told Kathy we have other presenters Dustin, and she goes, oh, we have very different presentations. I said, exactly why, exactly why I asked Dustin and Kathy and Talia, I want different styles here. The plan is to have each of them present for about 10 minutes, 10, 15 tops. And then once they're done with their presentation or what they want to talk about, then we're going to kind of have an open Q&A and also an open sharing, right? Either questions like, what do you do when this happens? Or I like what you said, I do this, and just kind of sharing how you might do it differently. The topic of today is how do you talk to sellers about price, right? What are your scripts that you use? When they say this, I always say this. I don't ever worry about this. I just do this. I don't in any way want to tell them what to say or how to present, because that's what we want. It's almost like, can I go on a listing appointment with you? I'd like to hear what you do. We're reading this book, The Full Fee Agent, that is such a great book. And he talks about, it's really not about, are you the best agent or the best fees or it's, do they trust you? Do they have a connection with you where they feel like you're my guy, tell me what I gotta do? And that our job is to create those relationships where people call us and say, they don't call and say, I'm interviewing 3 agents. They call and say, hey, Dustin, I'm ready to list. Come tell me what I gotta do. And my concern about that, well, and then the book talks about stop trying to force the outcome, but understanding that there are different levels of agents' experience. One of the reasons that people call these senior agents and say, hey, I'm ready to list, come tell me what I gotta do, is because they've been in the business a while. When you're that newer agent and they haven't worked with you before, you still, even those of us who'd say, I don't really even have a presentation, I just go, you do have a presentation. You know what you think they should probably list the house for. You've got a pretty good idea of what they need to do. You're still the expert. It's not like you just go in and because we drink together, I don't have to know anything and just you called me, right? So there is still, yes, it's very important about we drink together and that's why you called me in, but they expect you to know more than the other guy they drink with, or the other person they drink with. So with that being said, Dustin, how do you talk to sellers about price?
So I didn't come here with like a presentation.
Okay.
I thought you were just gonna ask me questions.
Well, and we can do that too.
Did you make copies of your printer?
I did.
Did you have a PowerPoint?
You have highlighters.
You have a PowerPoint?
Oh, you get highlighters.
Well, so
Everybody gets a highlight.
like you to prompt you with questions, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, you just asked me one, I guess. So
Yes.
I can start with that.
Okay.
Say it again. Like
How do you talk to, first of all, what is, you're at their house, how do you slide into pricing? How do you get the conversation started, and how does the conversation typically look with you?
I mean, I think everyone's a little bit different too, though. I mean, that's the hard part, right? Most of the time, like if it's my first time at the house, I don't give them a price while I'm there, because I'm not able to really pull comps until I get there and I know what I'm looking at, right? So I mean, it's an insert foot and mouth situation. I feel like if you start spitting numbers out before you've done any of the research, right? So, I mean, if it's like a a listing that is sold recently, then you can look at a, you know, like a the sale, right? And you can see all the pictures from before. I mean, then you can get a pretty good idea. But if it's something you have no idea you're getting into,
Mhm.
I typically just tell them that I'm gonna send them a CMA and tell them what that's done, and they review it and then go over price. So,
Okay,
but
yeah, please.
So if someone were to call you and it's not somebody who you've worked with before,
mhm.
and they were to contact you because they were referred or whatnot, and want a list, how much do you talk to them on the phone, or do you just say, great, love to meet you, let's set up an appointment, and then you go, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Like how
pretty
much
much just
conversation's happening up front versus at the,
not a ton on the phone.
Okay.
I mean, I would rather do it in person, really. So, I mean, it's more of a, like, yeah, perfect. Step one is I need to come see what you're working with, right? I mean, until I'm there and see it, there's not much I can really do. So when
Well,
can we meet, you know?
and a great thing about that approach is, a lot of sellers will try to get you to talk about price on the phone. And
Mhm.
while my method was different than Justin's as far as how much information I got upfront, I would not talk about price on the phone upfront. I mean,
right,
if you can't do it even at the house when you're having, you certainly can't do it. And kind of that, until I see it, is a
Mhm.
great way to get around that, right? Hey, and until I'm there, I can't really.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just tell them like, look, I can talk numbers all day long, but it means nothing until I know what we're looking at. So, you know, so it's not gonna do you any good or me any good to just pick a number.
Mhm.
So,
I love that too, because what you're really doing is setting up an expectation too.
mhm.
You're letting them know I'm not one of those agents who's just gonna,
Mhm.
how much you want?
Right.
Great, yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
I mean, like typically after I give them a number, which I don't, rarely do I give like just a hard number, like it's
Right.
just this. I pretty much always give a range, like, you know, how quickly do you want it to sell, or, you know, are you fine with doing some fishing and see what bites, right? I mean, do you want to start here or here? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm not gonna start above,
I
like,
was just gonna ask you
like,
that.
I mean, every now and again, you kind of have to go higher than what you want to, I suppose, you know, even though it's, you know, it's a waste of time, but like, they quickly figure out when nobody's there, that, okay, he was right. So,
So when you're giving that range, how would you describe that? If I were gonna describe my range, it would be where I wish you were, where I want you, no, I'm probably even a little lower than where I want you to be. And what's the most I feel comfortable seeing you? What is that, what
yeah,
your range
basically,
looks
right,
like?
I'm just, you know,
Yeah.
like, I think this is probably like pushing it to the very top, like, I doubt we'll get this much, but you never know, I suppose. And like, here's where I think you're gonna fall, you know, I mean, and I tell them too, like, anybody that comes in here and gives you an exact number, this is what it's, they're full of it, because nobody knows. Yeah. So even an appraiser is gonna come in and give you an exact number, but it's just a guess, right? I mean, it's an educated guess, but nobody knows. Yeah. And if somebody tells you they know, they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because they really don't.
So after you meet with somebody and you see what they've got, Dustin, do you ever have someone say like, yeah, we'd like to get $750,000 for this acreage with our pond, and you've already got it in your head that this is no more than 6.
Yeah, literally
tops.
just happened 2 days ago.
Okay,
okay.
So what-
So how do you handle that?
I mean, I told them they were gonna be like, you know, 215, 220, and she's like, so like 285's out of the question then. I'm like, yeah, like not even, I said, I wouldn't even put my sign in your yard, right? I mean, it's like, it's not gonna happen. You know, you have 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and like just over 1,000 square feet
Yeah.
in Albion, next to the highway.
You're lucky we're talking twos.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they got a nice little
Wow.
barn and it's
Yeah.
not, but I'm like, there's just no way, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't like hearing that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite is when they say, well, you know, I don't have to sell it. Well, then what did you call me for? Right? I mean, you know, I'm only here because you want to sell it. You didn't have me over just because you wanted to have a conversation.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, but you get that a lot too, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
I don't have to sell. Well, cool. Don't sell it then.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't call you.
Yeah,
How did that conversation continue?
I sent him a CMA the next day that showed him that there's no way it's gonna get to 285, right? I mean, and when I do that, I will send like the comps of the actual comps of it, and then I will send houses that are 285,000 and say, see, this is why you can't get to it. Because if you were a buyer and you had $285,000 to spend, are you gonna buy your house or are you gonna buy this other one that is?
It's 3 bedroom, 2 bath, not on the highway, yeah.
That way they can see.
Sorry, I just had a question.
Yeah.
Didn't interrupt. And so you said you send the CMA to the
Mhm.
seller. Like you just email it to them, then you get on the phone and talk them through it, or do you plan another time to go back?
Yeah, how's that?
No,
work?
Yeah.
I send it to them and then just put in there, like, once you've had time to review it, call me and then we'll go over it. Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And how does it look? Like, is it a one line and then photo, what all do you send?
I don't know, whatever the report is in the MLS.
Oh.
I just go in and do a CMA.
Gotcha,
I literally know how to do one, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know there's like a bag of tricks of all these different ones, but I just do.
Yeah.
The same one.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
I mean, but again, that like the people that I went and saw this with, I mean, for me, that's pretty rare. Like I don't. It used to happen a lot, but I mean anymore, I just don't really have to go do that, I guess.
Mhm. You don't have to tell them you're.
Like they don't, like, I mean, people call me like you were saying earlier,
Yeah.
they're like, hey, what do I gotta do? What's
Yeah.
it worth? And I
Yeah.
just do it, you know, I mean, it's not, like, there isn't a lot of questioning, right? I mean,
Right.
It's just like, yep, that's what it is, you know, and then I just do it.
Do you ever ask up front? What are we thinking? Do you
Oh,
ever
yeah,
ask?
yeah, it'd be depending on the, again, situation. by
Yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's good, I think it's good to know like kind of what they, and even if I don't ask up front, I mean, once I give them the number,
Mhm.
and then I'll ask them, you know, like, is that what you were thinking too? And seems, I mean, definitely more times than not, we're in this, you know, there's so much information out there already, right? I mean, everybody kind of already knows.
Yeah. It's funny because the upside of benchmarking first or finding out first
Mhm.
is you can kind of know upfront, is this gonna, you know,
Am I wasting my time?
am I wasting my time? Have I got a little work cut out for
Yeah.
me? The downside is as much as you, even if you're the oldest pro, there's that little bit of trying to get to their number that you really want to avoid, right? Doesn't really matter what they're thinking. So if you're asking to give yourself a heads up, great. But be careful that asking doesn't then make you try to get their number, because you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can, but depending on how.
But sometimes that asking up front, that does help. Like I said, you know, if you've got, like, somebody is way off, like you've already, as you're talking to them on the phone and you're sitting at your computer and you've looked up some little information, and you're like, oh, heck no, that's not even close. They're way off, then you know you're probably gonna have a struggle meeting your needs.
Yeah.
You could sell the house, but it's gonna be not at their expectation.
I had a client that built his own house and then they got a divorce, and he told me it was Penfield, and at the time he wanted 400,000, and at the time nothing had sold in Penfield ever for you know. And I actually said when I got in, hey, Mike, I left my car running. And he kind of looked at me and I said, because I'm pretty sure you're gonna want me back in it when I tell you that nothing, you know.
Yeah,
You know, if you know, like, we're not even close, dude.
yeah,
Yeah. No. I did not leave my car running.
yeah.
I have one in Tecontra right now that's under contract that this guy went and hired an appraiser before he even called me.
Mhm.
And the appraisal I thought was just junk, like, I mean, he just lied to the guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I told him, you know, I
Yeah.
said, there's just no way.
Mhm.
You know, and again, I showed him all the comps that I found, and this guy's comps were not really comps, you know? And we listed it, I don't know, like $40,000 less than what this junk appraisal we had. And it sold in like a week,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. Are there things that you find most sellers don't understand that you do kind of have to, like, you're ready to explain? Are there things that you find yourself talking about pretty consistently when you're meeting with sellers or talking about comps? Thank
Just
you, Bree.
basically that, you know, people want comps to be apples to apples,
Mhm.
and it really doesn't exist. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's like, I tell them that when you look at the comps that I send, like some of the comps you're gonna look at and you're gonna go, oh yeah, I see what he's looking at there, and I said, then there's gonna be other ones that you're gonna go, what, why is he using this, you know, I said, but you take little bits and pieces of all of them and mash it together and
Yeah.
kind of spits out a number. So that number doesn't mean that's exactly what it is, but it gets you in the ballpark.
And when you send them, no commentary, like, or yes, like, when you send the comms, do you say, here they are, look at them, let me know? Or do you send them and say, I noticed this, do you do any commentary?
No, I'll do that on the phone.
On the phone, yeah.
Or if I do it in person.
Yeah. And then Bree was asking, when you literally can't agree, and obviously we know you don't always turn them down, because you said, I've had to list
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple over.
I have some of those right now.
Do you have examples of times when you just said, yeah, I'm not your agent? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but
Mhm.
I mean, just tell them like, I'm not, like, I don't like just driving around seeing my sign in yards. Like,
Mhm.
I'm listing it to sell it. Like,
Right.
if I don't sell it, I don't make any money.
You don't need me to list your house, you're
Yeah.
asking me to sell it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that concerns me about the book is, the book says basically, it's their decision, let them make the decision. And I worry that that agents aren't hearing the other messages. There's no problem with saying, fine, if you wanna try 30,000 over, fine, but you're telling them you're 30,000 over.
Mhm.
That's different than the agent that just is like, how much you want, okay, great, and you didn't tell them,
And
it's
if
30,000 over.
if I agree to do that, like over what I think, I mean, I pretty much also plant the seed that like, look, we can give this 2 weeks,
Mhm.
right? 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
And like, if it's not happening, then I mean, we gotta lower the price.
Yeah.
You can't, most of these houses are, it's not like you're gonna go in and remodel it. You're certainly not gonna move it to a different location, right? I mean, it is what it is, and once you get to where it's on the market, I mean, what are you gonna adjust? I mean, what are you gonna play with,
Right,
Like, you go put a new bathroom in it, so what? I
Mhm.
mean, it's still a number.
yeah. Yeah, and price and condition are the only tools you have
Yes,
to
right,
move the
And most of
lever.
the time, people don't wanna go spend $100,000 and
Right.
remodel their house.
Right, so
Yeah.
prices are only lever,
Right, prices,
yeah,
yeah.
it's our only
It's-
lever.
It used to be, 15 years ago or something, people, oh, well, we need to try to advertise it here. Did you try it? Did you
Yeah.
put it in this
Right.
Yeah.
paper? Did you put, I mean, that doesn't
What
exist
about
anymore.
Lane
No,
Homes?
exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You're advertising it in Chicago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
So,
Yeah.
well, actually, I'm advertising it in Germany. too,
yeah,
so,
in the whole
yeah.
world,
Yeah.
so yeah. It's out there.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah,
that's a great point. It is a very different market,
Yeah.
for like how you'd approach that or
Yeah.
where you'd advertise or like, and now it's, nope, we're not doing that. I'm not gonna put a print ad in the paper. No, I'm not putting an ad in the
Right.
shopper.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time. The information's outdated by the time it's printed, usually.
Mhm.
So,
Thank you.
mhm.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Dustin now, or you're gonna stick around, right, and let us ask you questions at the end?
Sure.
Okay, Kath has a presentation.
Oh, I know.
And highlighters.
What
If
a
you'd
job.
like a highlighter.
Only because when I.
Nothing wrong with that,
Lisa,
Kathy, no, this is why.
This is me.
boo.
This is me.
Yeah, it's me, baby, and
I love.
actually, while you hand out, could I ask Dustin another question?
Yeah, please.
How often do you find yourself literally like, I'm the wrong guy in the wrong house? Like, I have a hard time with high-strung women who think they're victims, right? Like,
Mhm.
I get there and I'm like, I'm in the wrong house, I'm the wrong agent, you're gonna hate me. How often do you find that, or did you find that, and what do you do when you find yourself, like, when you find yourself thinking these people should work with Kathy Jewell? Like, how often do you find
Yeah,
yourself?
I mean, I guess most of the time I just bite my tongue and smile and tell myself it's gonna be fine when I take their money when it closes.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to be a little bit of a chameleon and,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, you pretty much have to, tailor to each client. They're all gonna be different, you know what I mean? If someone may want to sit on your deck and drink a beer while you talk about how much, and other ones are gonna want all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Call you every day.
Right.
Or call,
I'll call you
or
every
you
day.
call them every
Right.
day.
Right.
I mean, it's, I definitely have had a couple. I mean, it's not been very many to where I'm just like, yeah, I'm probably not.
I'm not your guy, yeah.
Well, and that, the wonderful thing about repeat
Yeah.
referral business is people who connect with who you really are
Right,
are the ones giving out your names.
Right.
So
Right.
more and more,
right.
you're connecting with people who are connecting with who you really are. Yeah.
It's who you attract,
Yeah.
right, too. So just like Lisa just said,
Mhm.
like you show your clients who you are and they're gonna be like, man, my friend Bob needs you, here's Dustin's number. And then, so you're gonna get more of that type of client.
Mhm.
And that's really how we're all kind of, our business is groomed, like who we're attracting.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, you and I do not attract the same kind of client
Right,
at all.
no.
But it's wonderful because everybody's different and there's plenty for all of us. So and I've had a couple of like total jerks that I'm like, I should just give you to Dustin. You know, I mean, because I know that you would be able to just deal with them
Yeah.
very easily and smoothly. And if you ever have somebody that is like talking your ear off and needs to be in therapy
Yeah.
and needs
Somebody
hand
that needs a
holding,
hug.
give me a shout. I mean,
You're too busy just
I got you. I got you. I got you back. So anyway, all right, so you want me to?
You're-
Okay, so I really had fun creating this. I wasn't gonna come with anything printed and then the other day I was working from home because I've had this head cold. I'm on hold with United Airlines for like an hour. So I just did this while I was on hold, you know, I had my earbuds in and I just did this and I thought, I'm just gonna type this up, you know, it'd be kind of fun and I'll bring markers just to be fun. So anyway, so just some of my top tips, and you guys all know me, so you know I try to begin with an attitude of gratitude. I feel like it's your attitude that sets the tone for an appointment, and that even happens on the phone. I do get a ton of referrals from previous clients. And many of them, lately, I have been working with a lot of older people who have been referred by several other older people out there who are giving everybody my name, you know, to sell their house and move to assisted living or sell their house and move into a condo or that kind of stuff. So that's a great example for me right now, is just kind of setting that tone on the phone and letting them know that you're grateful for the appointment. I always, when I walk into an appointment, I always say, I'm very grateful. Thank you so much for having me here today. Before I end a phone call, if somebody's calling me for a listing, I say, thank you so much for the call, very grateful, looking forward to meeting you. So that just sets that tone. Sets, you know, set the tone on the phone. I try to get a little bit of information about their property if it starts with a phone call. I identify goals, basically, like when would you like to be on the market? Because sometimes people will call and say, we're gonna wait till next year, but we're just wondering what's going on now. Well, I recognize that as you are fishing for pricing information because you might put a sign out there on your own. So we identify all of those things right up front. I usually ask them what price range they're hoping for, like after I've talked to them a little bit, gotten a little information. They might say, oh, well, that's why we've got you, or you should know that. And I say, all right, I will know that after I look at your house. But most people have a number in mind, and I'll say that to them. And let me tell you, those little old people, they know exactly what they want. They've got a number in mind. Everybody does. Zillow is so easy. Plus their neighbors are all telling them what they should be getting, and their kids are telling them what they should get. And their contract, everybody's got, right, everybody's got 100 people that's telling them what they should get. So we might as well just get that number out there. So I know what I'm dealing with, and I know if I'm dealing with somebody really unrealistic. I had a call, this was several months ago, from a gentleman who had lake property, and it was like 3 beds, bath and a half, maybe 1,100 square feet. And that's what he told me, but he goes, it's such a nice setting, it's beautiful, it's on a little fishing lake north of town. And the more we talked, I'm like, you know, this sounds really like a cute house, and I've got, you know, numbers in my head. And he said, I'm hoping to get like 900,000. And cause my neighbors really, it's a beautiful little lake, and I'm like, I bet you are hoping to get 900. Like, I'd like to get 1 million for my house, but right away then I thought, this dude is not being realistic at all. And you guys know I like to work with fun, nice people with reasonable expectations. So I am like on the other side of the coin. Dustin will work with people that are just like straightforward, this is what we want, but I like to have fun. And I like people to be nice, I don't like people yelling at me. So these are the people that I'm trying to attract, right? So this dude on the phone, he was not my guy, cause right away he started going, yeah, 900,000, I won't sell it for a penny less, and I'm like, you're probably not gonna be selling it with me.
You're 500 over.
Don't be afraid to say no on the phone. Like, if this is not your person, just say, thank you so much for the call. I think another agent would serve you better. And if there's somebody in the office that you think they'd match up well with, say so. Say, I've got a colleague, Cassiana, who's very experienced in this area. I'd love to give you her name and number, or I've got.
tell you you're full of shit.
Yeah, but if, the third time, then you give them to Dustin.
Third time's a charm. He'll sell it for like 800.
Anyway,
Eventually.
But I kind of look at a team approach too, even on the phone, set that expectation. I tell them I want to meet your goals. We're a team together. That's what I love about being at my office at Remax. I don't have to go by somebody else's list of rules. We can make up the rules as we go. So let's talk so I can tell you what my guidelines are. Zillow, when Zillow first came out, I can remember very specifically, I was working with a relocation person. Her name was Marge. She was out of the East Coast, Boston area. She called me to relocate somebody to a company here in Battle Creek. And this was in about 2008, 7. Like, nobody really knew much about Zillow then, and she said she wanted to know what Zillow thought of the price of the house. And I'm like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. What's Zillow? She goes, you don't use Zillow? And I'm like, I don't even know what it is. And she said, well, it's a website that gives you prices of houses. I'm like, that's crazy. And I remember hearing about that and thinking, this is never gonna fly, a website telling me this. And now Zillow is, everybody knows, what's the Zestimate, what's the range, so I tell people Zillow's a good benchmark, but not always. And you guys have looked up houses on Zillow and gone, wow, in this neighborhood, it's gonna get that? And then you get out there and go, holy cow, this is gonna get twice that, or this isn't even close. But it gives me a good idea. And I tell people it's a database, it doesn't know your house. I usually do a sample net sheet when I go out on a listing appointment, and I use the Zillow prices as the sample. And I tell them that this is just a sample so you can see your costs, your breakdown. This is not the price I'm suggesting. I'm like Dustin, I don't talk price on phone at all, because that's gonna be the phone call that is just fishing for a price and they're gonna try to sell it to their neighbor for that price. So I don't talk price on the phone. But that gives me a good, just a good guideline to have Zillow. I would say when you're preparing for a listing appointment, the things I do, I look at the Zillow price. For my benchmark, I'll do a list, like a CMA of similar homes if I just wanna get a range before I go out there. You have to stick to similarities. I'll give you an example. I went on a lake listing the other day that, it depends on the lake. Sonoma Lake and Gull Lake don't match up, right? So like, you can't look for all lakes in the area. You've gotta be very specific. If it's a small all sports lake or if it's a big lake. So make sure you're specific to that area. And I tell people that, your home is beautiful, it's your home. you're gonna think it's worth more than anybody else. We've all seen that chart, you know, like what the appraiser thinks, what you think, what the tax assessor thinks.
What the buyer thinks.
What the buyer thinks, right, but that right price is somewhere out there that we're just gonna try to set the price in a sweet spot and find the right buyer for the house. So when I'm actually at the appointment, first time I meet up with somebody, I don't give them an exact price because I don't know, like Dustin said, until you know what you're dealing with, you don't give them an exact price, and how can you be exact anyway? I usually will have a range after I see their home. I don't leave my information with somebody if they haven't committed to working with me. I will thank them for the appointment. If they say, well, we gotta think about it, or we'll get back to you, or, you know, we're just not 100% sure. I will thank them and I'll say, when can I check back in with you? Or when are you gonna make your decision if you wanna list or not? And usually they'll say, oh, a few days or next week, and I'll check back in with them. And I'll tell you guys, I don't lose many listing appointments. I mean, most of them I go on are, I'm it. I'm the favorite. So I already know that. That's a question that I ask too. Are you interviewing other agents before I even go? If I'm up against any of you, I just thank them politely and say, I don't compete against my teammates. That's just my personal thought. If I am up against anybody else, I will ask them why they're interviewing more than one agent, and 9 times out of 10, it's, well, because my dad told me I should, or my neighbor said that's good due diligence. So this is the part I'm not sure, where do you guys usually want to be? The first one in or the last one in?
Oh, I'm definitely not the first one in, and also I'm to the point where I say, if you're interviewing other agents, go ahead and talk to them, give me a call back after you've decided they're not the right one.
Mhm.
And if it's, and then if they were gonna list with one of them anyway, because realistically, either they really wanna work with you and they're interviewing other people for due diligence anyways, and then great, get your due diligence out of the way, we'll have our conversation last.
Right.
Or they're interviewing multiple because you're the due diligence and that's their best friend,
Mhm.
and they want an experienced person to tell them the price so that they can list it with their best friend.
Right.
So if they're meeting with any other agents at all, great, go ahead and meet with them, give me a call back if they don't agree, but
Okay.
every once in a
Yeah.
while,
Yeah.
if it really sounds like it's due diligence, I'll sometimes send them a thank you card of, hey, thanks so much for calling, again, if they're not the right fit, give me a call, but.
If you're the favorite and they're still, you know you're the favorite and they're still doing due diligence, you still say, great, do your diligence and call me when you
Give
really,
me,
if
give
they
me a
know
call
you
when they're
want.
all done.
Interesting.
I will, if they're like, look, we know we're gonna list, I'll say, okay, great, let's schedule it a couple days afterwards, I'll check in with you after, if we're good to
Okay.
go.
Mhm.
If
That
they
would be
really
my
wanna
only concern,
schedule-
like if they wanted you, well, let them have you, and so you do still give that option.
Yeah.
Like, let's go ahead and schedule.
That's, I mean, that's something that you don't start with that attitude, like,
No.
you know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
right.
something, after you're already established, you
Yeah.
can do that.
Mhm.
If you're brand new out of the gate, you don't
No.
get to do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Right, yeah,
You have no way of
absolutely.
knowing, you are due diligence if you're brand new out of the gate, unless it's somebody, you know.
Well, and
Unless it's your best
let's
friend.
face it,
Yeah.
even if you ask them nicely on the phone, are you interviewing other
They could be lying
agents?
to you.
They could be lying.
Mhm.
Mhm.
They, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Where they say, oh no, we're just
Mhm.
talking to you, and you get there and you give your presentation and they say, well, actually, we talked to
But Mark Miller said.
so-and-so, right, last week, and they'll do it for this, and I mean,
Betty will,
I bet he will,
cheaper.
great,
Yeah.
and you know, if you want a Cadillac, you pay a Cadillac price, if you want a Chevy, you pay a Chevy price, it's just, that's the difference, but here's what I provide for you, so.
No matter what,
that's
though, I would
what's
try to
good.
go last.
I just went first on one, and that it was ordered to this lady that's gonna handle estate. The attorney here
Had to.
had to have
Yeah.
two.
Yeah.
But the attorney recommended the other one, and she
Mhm.
told me that, and so I thought, oh, I don't have a prayer, you know, to get this, but I went. And at the end of the night, after I got home, she texted me and said, the other agent that came out never asked me the questions that you asked me, like, what did I need to get out of this for my lady that's dying, or, what, tell me your story, and that's exactly what I went in with. Tell me your story, why are we here, why are you handling this estate or whatever.
Did she say she never asked me those questions and I'm gonna list with you, or did she just acknowledge that you asked questions that she liked?
She liked that I asked questions. She said the other agent didn't come with any documentation, any CMA. She would email it and everything. And then I got a call yesterday and I got it. So
Oh,
I
That's
was
awesome.
pretty-
That's awesome.
I was pretty happy. I was pretty nervous
That's
that,
awesome.
but it's very nerve wracking to go first or
Mhm.
go at all. I really think when you're up against multiple.
Yeah, but you
guys are
have to-
used to it.
Yeah, right,
more
and
than
you
I
do get
am.
more used to it.
Yeah.
And I agree with what Dustin said before, that you can't, and respectfully, cause that's kind of how I feel too, but you can't go in with an attitude of, well, like, oh, if you're gonna interview other agents, then
F you.
forget it,
No.
yeah, like, but you can get to that point where you're like, I got too much business to waste my time running around, you
It's
know?
not even that, I agree, but it's not even that, it's not even that I have too much business to be wasting my time, it's I'm learning that when I'm spending time with these types of things, I'm not cultivating the kind of business I really want, and it's almost like magic. But you find when you clear that stuff out, that other stuff just fills in. And again, this is what this book, Full Fee Agent, we all agree, read it about your third year, right? Your first 2 years, you gotta do what you gotta do, you gotta hustle, you gotta take what you can take, this book is after you've established that and learned all, then realize, I gotta stop chasing around my tail.
Yeah.
Like a lost puppy will take anything they'll feed me, right? But your first 2 years, take whatever they'll feed you, yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's also, it doesn't hurt as training as long as you're looking at it
Yeah.
as that.
Mhm.
Like when I first got into the business, I previewed every single home that came on in Lakeview within the first week it was on for like 2 years. Because that's not getting me, I mean, I did one time have somebody pull into the driveway and I sold the house, but like, other than that, there are things that you just do for training, and if you acknowledge it as that, like, hey, I'm gonna sharpen the axe, I wanna compete with Cassidy Scramlin, I wanna compete with Mark Miller, I wanna compete with, like, I wanna be that second option, have me out, and it's just, and you understand that it's about getting better and better at this. If you go into it with that mindset, that's still an attitude of
Yes,
gratitude, I'm grateful for this chance
absolutely,
to sharpen the axe.
absolutely is, so.
And if I was bored and didn't have anything to do, and I'd absolutely do that.
So just wrapping up my bottom comments there, this is great discussion, I always talk in positive terms, as if, like when we sign our listing papers, when we get contracts, when we get offers, when we have showings. You don't wanna sit at a listing appointment and say, well, if if we get offers and, just be confident, it's gonna happen. So own it, know that. As far as actually setting a price, and I 100% agree with what Dustin was saying, that like you go in and you have a range. You're going to look at something, and the more you do this, the better you're gonna get at like kind of knowing that range. It's not an exact number. You can, because you might give them a range and they'll say, well, what are you thinking in that range? And you can say, well, how about this? Well, how about this number? Well, as long as it's still within that range or pretty darn close to the range, even if it's a little above the range, I might say, well, we could, my range is from 238 to 250. And they say, well, what about 257? Well, we could go above that 250 mark, but really, that's kind of our cutoff for everything else that has sold here. So, we could try that. But I really feel like if we wanna stay under that range to be in a sweet spot and exposed to the most buyers and get the most opportunities. So I use those words, I say sweet spot. I'll say, we want our exposure, we want opportunities, we're looking for more than one buyer to look at this property. You don't wanna get too high or too low, because then people will, I don't know,
Then
sometimes
go get a
like.
hotel room, cause your house is gonna show up in
Right,
2 days.
but I mean, Talia had a great example, the one on Clinton. That house, she had that priced like at a great spot, like lower than what she knew it was gonna go for. And she had 10 offers on that house. Like, we were all looking at that house going, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is like, for this price, under 200. Well, it went over 200, but she priced it in that sweet spot of like where the upper 100s where she knew people were gonna look, and it went crazy. So, I always say, you know, you don't wanna chase the wave, you wanna ride the crest of the wave. We wanna be on top of that. We don't wanna chase the market. David Knox used to say that. Don't be chasing after the market. Get in that crest, get in that sweet spot. And then lastly, I tell people, you know, it's a little bit of science, a little bit of math, and a good guess. And Annie Stetler, she always calls it a WAG.
Wild
A
ass
wild
guess.
ass guess.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, if I'll say that occasionally, you know, sometimes if I think the client will receive it well, I'll say, well, you know, one of my friends calls it a WAG, and what's that mean? Wild ass guess. It's like, okay. So that's kind of what I do.
Dad said you pull out all the comps, you pour over them, you do the math, and then you push it all aside, you go to the curb, because back then that's what you did. And you put your hand between your heads and you come up with a price. And it took me a while to realize what he meant was, in the end, you gotta trust a little bit of your gut.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The other day at this lake property, I told him the math and the science, and I said, then we can like get down on the ground and pull a little grass up and throw it up in the air and see which way it blows, right? And that's where our price is, because it's not exact. It's very fluid in the market.
Good. Any questions for Gav?
Well, add to the range thing, like you were talking, you know, you were 238 to 250 and they wanted 257.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the big reasons to not go to 257 is when people on their Zillows and their Realtor.com, when they set their search parameters.
Yes.
Like a 50,000 thing is like a mark, you know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have all these people that are set at 250.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not gonna get your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're talking, you know, the 238 to 250, and they're like, well, how about, you know,
239.
250, anything in between
Right.
that is
Yes.
fine, right? Cause it's kind of a cutoff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, those people would buy your house at a price that's fair, 250, but they'll
Yeah.
never see it because they stopped their
They
search at
stopped there.
250 and you're at 257.
I do talk a lot about the benchmarks
Yeah.
of if we're dickering over 237 to 245, like, I don't care,
Yeah,
happily.
right.
But if we're talking about 249 to 251, that's a much different.
Yeah.
It is, yeah,
But it's just because the
Great
people won't see it.
right, right.
Sarah Hamrick had a really good point once, that she never does the 249.9 because if somebody starts their search at 250, you are at 250, but
Right.
they won't see it because you priced for 249.9. That she did not do $1 off $1. She did, if it's 250, it's 250. If it's 249, it's 249. It's not 248.9. She never did that, which I thought, good point, and it's all because of the search parameters.
If you're close to one of those.
Yeah.
numbers.
Yes, yeah, good. Okay, last one, Talia, coming to you from, let's see, I gotta share screen. There, coming to you from her dining room, cause I've been in her house and I know that's what that is. Where'd it go? Shoot. Why
The
does
other
it
tab.
show? It logged me out of my email, which made her movie go away. Didn't her movie show there for a second? All right, I'm sorry.
I saw
Hold
her
on,
face on
this'll
there.
just be a second. I did too, but it was in my email
Oh.
and so, let's see.
Well, wait, I guess, do you guys ever talk commission up front? I know you're not talking price range and stuff, but do you ever?
Not up front,
Those numbers either.
never. That's the very last thing that I cover.
What about you, Dustin?
I mean, I guess it just depends if they ask it up front. I mean, it's not like it's a.
You're not bringing it
I'm
up.
not bringing it.
No.
If they bring it up, what do you do?
I brought it up first thing yesterday, but it was if I think they're shopping around for somebody cheap, I'll bring it up first thing. I had a guy call me yesterday and he said, we do about 60 flips a year. We've got 20 of them in Battle Creek. We've seen that I've worked with you before and I really liked working with you. I'd like to meet up for coffee and talk about you potentially listing my flips in Battle Creek. And I called him back and I said, hey, that sounds wonderful. I want you to know right now I charge 3.5%. So if that's a deal breaker, I don't want to waste your time. You're gonna be
Really
driving
nice
down to
telling
Grand
you that.
Rapids. And he was like, oh. I appreciate you telling me right away. No, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. It let's meet up. And so, first of all, now I know right away,
Yeah.
you would be willing to do it. But also, I've had quite a few wholesalers that called me and they say, I'm a wholesaler. I want to list our Battle Creek properties with you. And I tell them right off the bat and they're like, oh my gosh, thanks so much for telling me. Let's
Yeah.
not. Cause
Yeah.
I would have spent
Yeah.
an hour and a half looking at 4
Great
dumps
point.
to
Right.
find out that they only wanted to, but that's a very rare. I just happened to do that yesterday. So I only bring it up front if I am fairly confident it's going to be an issue. Otherwise, I
But
don't
if
like
they were to
repeat referral
initiate
people,
that and
anything
ask
like
that,
that.
Yeah,
of course.
repeat referral are not gonna ask you that.
They wanna
question.
pay
But if it's a
somebody.
cold call, they might ask you that up front. They might say, well, we were wondering what you charge for commission.
And I would love to hear other perspectives, but also, if you ask me right up front how much I charge, you're also telling me that you think the most important thing is how much I charge.
Right.
So I'm going to talk to you about something else and never talk to you about what I charge, and you're gonna not even realize that I redirected you, but I'm going to say something like, well, how much do you charge? Well, that concerns me that what you're looking for is a price and not an agent. If you're looking for an agent, then you're looking for somebody who knows what they're doing and is gonna help you get your house sold. And at that point, the price will matter because, the price will be important because it's part of your net, but there is no net until you sell. So if you're looking for somebody who's gonna come and give you good advice, I'm the one for you. If you're just looking for price, I'm probably not your agent anyway. And so I'm not gonna tell you my price.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about why you even asked me.
Yeah.
Curious anybody else?
I would do a similar, I'm definitely not the cheapest agent and people don't pick me to be the cheapest agent. So if what you're looking for is the cheapest agent, I'm definitely not that one. And normally, either they'll be like,
They don't wanna admit they were looking for the
yeah,
cheapest agent.
well, but then they'll say, oh, no, I do want a really good agent. I was just curious. Let's,
Or it catches them off the guard and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you can't blame me for asking.
Yeah,
You know?
but you
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
but you can.
Okay, yeah, good question, next.
Lauren's our daughter, she's an agent in Salt, or in Park City, she said something to me the other day I thought was funny, because she asked me that question of people, what do I say when I tell them I want, 3%, they're like, well, would you do it for 2.5? And she's like, do you ever just tell them like, well, I guess what part of my service don't you want? 'Cause for all of it is 3%, if I'm gonna do it for 2.5, then like, what part do you want me to cut out? Like, do you want me to not put a sign up? You don't want me to put it in the MLS? I mean, what do you,
Yeah.
'cause it's 3% to get the full service.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
if you want less, you're gonna get less.
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
She does say that?
Yeah.
And how
Well,
does it-
I don't know that she says that. I
Oh.
mean, that was her.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I just thought it was an interesting take on it, so.
Well, and I hope they say to me, somebody else will do it less. Please say that to me, because my immediate response is, oh, I'm sure they would. Matter of fact, I can find this somebody who charges too. Let's talk about why that is. Do you ever ask yourself, why is that person doing it for less? Maybe they don't have very much business.
Yeah, if you're gonna go have heart surgery, are you looking for the
Yeah.
cheapest surgery?
Yeah,
or the
Yeah.
best?
right.
Yeah, exactly.
What
What
is
is,
good cheap
what is
fast,
2%
good
of-
cheap fast
Yeah.
pick too, right?
what is 2% of zero? I forget.
Yeah, yeah. How did that work for you?
It's zero.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Talia.
And I'm gonna do my best to give you some good information on how to, some scripts to use to help people price their houses for their own success. So first, Floyd Wickman taught us the safe island technique. Before you even start with someone, you make sure that they understand what you're going to do. So when someone calls me, says, I'd like to talk to you about a listing, I'll say, great, I'll get some basic information, and I'll say, all right, when we get together, what we're going to accomplish is that we're going to discuss what you're trying to accomplish and make sure that I'm the agent that can help you accomplish that. It's going to take about an hour and 15 minutes. Just so you have some idea of what we'll do together. I'd like to gather some very quick basic information, your address, your phone number, your email address, and what basic price range do you think your home is in? I like to ask their price expectation to make, and I say, it's to make sure I bring all relevant information. What do you think your home will sell for? If they say, oh no, that's your job, I playfully say, don't worry, you cannot make me not do my job. I'm going to do it, but it does help me to know what houses have sold for in your area. So they give me some kind of an idea on price. When I'm doing my market analysis to bring with me, I use larger search parameters than I know they're expecting. If they say, I think my house would sell around 225, then I might go everything from 175 to 275 or something like that. I go higher than what they asked, as well as lower. When I arrive, I set the market analysis right on the table and say, I brought more information than we could possibly need. And after we gather some information about your property and take a tour, once we've seen the product together, we can go over numbers. The most important thing in pricing is to understand what your client wants. And because you're going to tie everything to how they can accomplish their goals. So the first thing I always say is, what am I doing here? Why are you even thinking about selling your property? And I gather as much information as I can. From there, I also make sure I've got all their contact information, and then I've got quite a long sheet, and most of you probably do, or I'd be glad to share it. But a sheet that says, how old's your furnace? What's the age or condition of your water heater? When's the last time your septic was pumped? All of that kind of information. And I also ask them about their strongest features and their biggest drawbacks. If someone was looking at this home and other homes in their price range, why would they buy this home? What are the best things about it? And then why, if someone was looking at this home and looking at several others, what might make them hesitate? And I have never had any luck. Well, first of all, you want to ask what the assets are because it helps you write the ad. They love their property for certain reasons, and the next people will probably love that same property for those same reasons. And so it's very helpful to know what the seller loves about the property. I have never had any luck telling somebody the bad things about their property. They get offended and they think I don't like their property. And so instead, I always make them tell me that there's a shared drive or whatever. And I think the question, why might someone hesitate, kind of lets them go, well, when we bought the house, we we're kind of worried about that shared driveway, but it hasn't been any problem at all. And okay, good, shared driveway, thank you. Then once I've gathered all the information, I walk through the property, and what I tell them is that I'm walking through first to understand their property and to see it, but also to help make suggestions so their home is camera ready. I use camera ready because people used to get offended if I said, hey, you want to change this carpeting. They thought, oh, I don't have enough money and you're judging my house, and it just didn't work for me. So again, I say, as long as you're living here, as long as you want to stay here, don't do any of the things that I'm talking about. You should live in your house exactly in a way that makes you feel comfortable. But if you want to sell the house, then you have to think of it as your product. And then we're going to get it camera ready. You're going to get it, are going to get it camera ready. And so that a buyer will be excited about seeing it. So I go through and I say, let's start at the front door, just like a buyer would. And I'm very picky at the front door. I say, all right, let's buy a new welcome mat and get new lights outside and take down all the cobwebs and paint the front door. And people go, like, you're going to do this through the whole house? And I say, don't worry. What we're going to do is get them to fall in love. So we've got to be super picky in the, at the front door in the first few rooms. And as we get to the last rooms, they're already in love and we won't have to worry about condition quite so much. But as you're going through, you're going to notice some limiting factors, and of course, limiting factors limit price. So one of the things that I say when it's time to go over the market analysis is, well, first I say, I am not going to find a copy of this property. You know that even if I found the same house built from the same floor plan, that after this much time, there's different updates, there's different finishes. Every property is located differently, so there's no way I'm going to find a copy. What we're going to do is identify properties that somebody would clearly pay less for than this house, less desirable location, less desirable condition, if that's applicable. And then we're going to identify properties that somebody would pay more for, bigger, newer, whatever. And once we know what's too much, too little for the property and what's too much, we can back into market value that way and have a good idea of a price that's going to accomplish your goals for you. So then we go through the market analysis, and if the property had any limiting factors, I remind them that we can always fix limiting factors with price. So we want to take a more aggressive price if the properties are if the properties could, if somebody would be more successful with a different property than with this one. If people start balking about price, there are a few things that I often say. One is that I want as high a number as possible. The more you get, I work on commission. So the more you get, the more I get. And I want you to know that I'm all in to get as much money as we can. And I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. I work for you and not vice versa. If you pick a price where we don't have any justification or to an appraiser or to a buyer, then I'm afraid you won't be happy with the results, and you've got real goals that you want to accomplish. So I hope some of those scripts are helpful to you. Some people resist the idea of scripts because they think, oh, those sound too canned. But the fact of the matter is, if words help someone to accomplish their goals, that's a good thing. Okay, I wish you all the best. I hope this is helpful for you, and happy selling.
No question and answer period for
Yeah.
Talia.
Yeah.
Cause she's not here. I do wanna touch on one thing, the difference between a one visit listing and a 2 visit. I always did a 1 because I was trained by Talia, right? She taught me how to sell real estate. And she does a 1 stop. And the way you do that is exactly like she said, you bring such a wide range of comps that you are going to be able to comp that house out. And I loved a 1-stop listing, but it is rare anymore. Really, you guys are more common that the 2-stop listings or the, email after or whatever really is the more common. But again, you're right, Kathy. One of the things here at RE/MAX is we don't say, this is how RE/MAX does it. We say, there's a lot of ways to do it, and that's how you differentiate yourself. And if you're curious about a 1-visit listing, we can talk about those.
That's what I
two.
do.
A 1
A
visit,
1.
yeah. Mhm.
So when you 1 visit, does that mean you're gonna sign paperwork then, or you're gonna email it to them?
Depends, I keep paperwork in, I always have
Right.
Listing package, and I'd say probably about a third of the time we start signing right then. That's gone up, definitely, but most of the time they need some additional time. And sometimes we need some additional time, but we do really wanna sign right now because we wanna get this part over
Right.
with, so we'll leave the dates and price blank.
Yeah.
But it also, a lot of the times, it's, okay, let's see if we can get to this level condition wise. And if we stop here, then we've gotta stop here price point wise too. So a lot of times we'll talk about price, but we won't decide on a final price until, if they need 3 months to get the work done, to get it done, then there's not really a
Right.
point in deciding on a price right now, cause we don't know how much work they're gonna get done and we don't know what it's gonna look like in 3 months. So I don't know, probably about a third of the time we end up signing right then.
Yeah.
With like literally meet for the first time, go over goals, talk about pricing and sign. Maybe a third.
I was probably half.
Mhm.
About half of the time we listed right then and there, but one of the things that set me apart, or that I felt like was kind of one of my special things, is at my little opening speech was, I'm not here to put a sign in your yard,
Mhm.
right? I'm here because you have a big decision to make and you need the right information in order to make that decision. Matter of fact, the odds of me putting a sign in the yard tonight are slim, because probably there's gonna be some things you're gonna need to do before. But, so what I'm here is to give you information, so it'd be kind of hard to set them up with that and then be like, so you ready to sign? You know, and it's rare that they don't have some homework to do before they list anyway. I will say though, in this much more competitive market for
Mhm.
agents, not just signing right then and there and leaving the dates open, you can fill in the dates. But then what you would do is somewhere in the listing agreement, you date it today, they're listed with you.
Mhm.
But you'd put marketing won't begin
That's
until
fine.
blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Then you've got the listing,
Mhm.
the neighbor comes over and says, oh, I see you're painting, are you selling your house? And then the
Mhm.
next thing you know, it's a FISBO.
Mhm.
You have a listing,
Mhm.
it's just you haven't started marketing it yet. And you can do that.
How long does one listing take or one appointment take?
Oh, it
you
depends on
to,
the
like-
people. I've had it,
Hour and a half.
yeah, I've had it
Sometimes
as
longer.
as short as an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a
People are
flipper,
ready. Yeah.
it's a small house, we
Yeah.
walk through, we talk about it, you're ready to go, we sign everything, we're done. Like, I've had it be hour 15 with signing included. Typically, if I'm putting it in my calendar, I give myself 2.5 hours.
I would always tell the client, be prepared for 2 hours, what I have to do is only about an hour, but I don't know how many questions you're gonna
Yeah.
have, so be prepared for 2, because not telling them that,
Mhm.
and then the husband thinks it's only gonna be a half hour and he was out the door and now you don't have both parties there. and, Yeah, the daughter's gotta go to soccer and some.
I tell them we need to pick a time where you've got at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll plan on an hour and you'll get there and they're talkers.
Mhm.
And I always.
Which is why I never
always
plan on
dream-
it.
Right, but I mean, you'll tell them, you know, like you're meeting the first time, that we're thinking of listing later this summer, we know we've got a lot to do, this is mom's house, we just moved her out, like that kind of a thing. And then they bring mom and she wants to tell you all about the flower beds and everything. And you just have to be patient with that and know this is part of your relationship building. But I always, if I say to somebody, it's gonna take about an hour and 15 minutes, then I'm conscious of that time and I'll say, oh, we're about 45 minutes in, how are we doing on your time?
Which means, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
It's just
Okay.
a roll,
How long,
sometimes it
how
does,
long
yeah.
is your one stop usually?
I don't even know.
You don't
Yeah.
have a feel for it? No, it's different every time.
It's different with
Literally.
everybody, it is
Yeah.
different with everybody.
Yeah.
I think it probably is.
I will say Morgan getting into real estate kind of helped me reevaluate some of that talking stuff. Because you don't realize as you do this more and more how lax you get on letting them talk. And Morgan would be like, what were you doing? And well, you wanted to tell me about her garden, she said, why did you let her? I mean, you know, it was that fresh perspective and I got better at being like, all right, we need to redirect this back to, you know, because I was getting where I was letting them talk to me for 2 hours and coming home thinking, oh my God, I can't.
Yeah.
And yes, you have to be polite, yes, you have to admit, but you can also
Guide.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
did say, and the mom wants to talk about this and this, and I let him do that, I don't.
yeah.
But that's also a different
This is our
relationship.
difference, right?
The
This is
people
our
that call me
difference.
don't
This is our
tell me
difference.
This is why,
This is why I'm
Right.
the grandma whisperer.
if you need tea and talk for 2 hours, I'm gonna give.
I'll be there.
She's like, I'll bring the kid on the sandwiches.
I know, right, like, but literally, you guys, I'm telling you,
Oh,
find your
yeah.
niche, right?
Do.
Find your niche.
My
And
mom,
those people you might spend a little more time with, but it's going to benefit you down the road. I've got I have a family, I have several older couples who have moved to some of these assisted livings that give my name out to all their people. All their people, and they make money for me
Yeah.
all day long, because I will sit and talk to them and find out about, they've lived there 50 years, let them talk about it for a
Kathy
minute,
lets
you know?
them tell them about every day.
I don't care, because guess what? I'm gonna close that and 5 more of your friends are gonna call me.
Yep.
So, great, this is my purpose in real estate, you know, in that little segment of my clientele. So I think it just depends on what your niche is. You know, Dustin, if you got people that are like out on farm, you're walking the land, they're telling you about hunting, you're gonna talk to them about hunting. And then you're gonna sell that, and you're gonna sell 10 more properties for those people because they love that you're a hunter. So it's just investors,
well, it's
you know
the
how to
same-
speak that
Well, and
language, right?
that's the same thing for me. It's partially setting the tone and getting to know me in the first place. Like, I feel like for the most part,
Totally.
there are agents in this office that know who they can walk around and shoot the shit with.
Mhm.
And they also know that if they have a business question, you can come ask me.
Mhm.
And like, those agents don't come and try and shoot the shit with me, cause it's just not, I'm
Yeah.
not the shoot the shit person.
Right.
So like,
Right.
so
Right.
if I come in and say, here's your CMA, here's what we're gonna talk about, let's get going. And
Yeah.
You're
I'm
no
here to ask the
nonsense.
questions, you're here to answer, like, it's not. Also, once we get done and we've already signed, if I've got an extra 15 minutes and we play hockey together and I know you're gonna refer 5 people to me.
Mhm.
Now let's sit here and talk about our hockey jerseys that we're
Right.
gonna do next year, but that's after we've figured everything out.
So
And that is the beauty of this,
Mhm.
of this business. Like,
speaking of letting
we're all
people
different.
talk for a long time. Sorry, it's 11:08. We do need
Yeah.
to wrap this up. I do think it goes back to though about being your authentic self.
Mhm.
People know, yes, you have to change yourself a little, not change yourself, don't ever change yourself. Yes, you have to act a little differently with different people, but also being true to your authentic self, again, attracts people who appreciate who you are authentically. Yeah, all right, great, thank you, everyone. Thank you to our presenters, thank you, Dustin, thank you, Kathy.
Welcome.
Thank you, Talia. Thanks, Tony and Bree, for
Did
joining.
Vote already, absentee vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
we're all
Yeah.
going over
Yes,
there to
it's-
vote
it's about
today.
20 minutes